everyone to Earth is our Witness, yet another episode of Earth is our Witness. As a reminder again, why we do this. The purpose is to invite awesome photographers on a regular basis to truly show, their work, and through their work, the stories behind the work, and through the stories behind the work is to show how interconnected things are, is in a way to inspire creativity and compassion. And with that, we have yet another awesome photographer today. Before we talk about the photographer and what the topic is, I want to welcome my good friend, Art Wolfe, our artist in residence. Art, how are you?
I am great, and I can't wait to see Darren's beautiful photos.
Great. And Darren, with that, I want to welcome, you in a big way. It's special, man. We know you, we love you, and we are looking forward to a really interesting topic today, which is rainforest to reef. And the reason I find this very interesting is when you and I were talking, Darren, and you said, planting a tree in the rainforest can save the Great Barrier Reef. And I said, what do you mean? What's the connection between the two? And then you told me about the connection, and that's what I think through your images and your work and the nonprofits you work with, we're going to hear today. So with that, I want to welcome you, Darren.
Oh, thank you, guys. Thanks for having me again. It's really good to see you. Coming to you live from Cairns in far north Queensland.
And Queensland is in Australia, just to be clear. In case someone's geography isn't that great, mine is not.
Right. So think of the northeast corner of Australia, the pointy part.
Yeah.
We're up there on the east coast.
Cool. So Darren, you're a Canon Master. You're an underwater ocean photographer. And I'm just intrigued. I've seen your images, beautiful shots, but I'm intrigued between the connection. Tell us a bit about that. And, perhaps as you start sharing your images, about the connection between the rainforest and the reefs.
For sure. So I guess I'm best known for my underwater photography. I have, over my career, 30 odd years, photographed most types of nature, starting out broadly with landscape, wildlife, and underwater. And so I guess over that time, I learned a lot about conservation and what needs to be done to protect areas and species. And it makes sense to be thinking about all of the connections that are bound in nature, and one really close to my heart is the rainforest to reef. So I've got we can talk a little bit about the rainforest to reef initiative that that I'm involved in with my colleague Jasmine and Rainforest Rescue, and then we can maybe go on to some reef pictures after that. But I'm pretty keen to show you.
Let's do that.
Sort of where that connection comes from. So.
Great. Looking forward to it.
He is so excited, Darren. He's like bubbling over right now.
It's either Darren or the whiskey. I don't know which one. I think it's both.
So Darren, is it specifically the Daintree rainforest? Is that what you guys call the rainforest outside of Cairns or Cairns?
That's right. Yeah, so the wet tropics rainforest runs from a city called Townsville to Cooktown in North Queensland. It's a part of the Great Dividing Range of Australia that comes close to the coast, and that wet tropics rainforest has had some protection over the last 30 or 40 years, but there's still some issues with the water quality up here that runs onto the reef. So that's what we're mostly interested in. And there is definitely a section of the wet tropics rainforest called the Daintree, which is, as you probably know, the oldest continuously existing rainforest on the planet. So about 400
I didn't know that. Oh,
yeah.
I had no idea. Wow, thank you for that.
So we can go through some of that stuff as we go through the slides.
Okay.
Should I start sharing my screen?
Yeah. Go ahead and share your screen.
Okay, so let's see if we get this working. How's that? Have you got a Rainforest to Reef screen there?
Yes,
excellent.
We do.
Okay, so Rainforest to Reef is an initiative between two organisations called Rainforest Rescue, and the other one is Great Barrier Reef Legacy, who both individually work on the topics, I guess, close to their heart, but together they've got this Rainforest Reef initiative, and myself and you guys know Jasmine, my
Yes.
colleague, we're both ambassadors for Rainforest Rescue. So that's the little caveat that we are, you know, we're pretty closely connected to these guys.
If Jasmine's watching this,
So,
Jasmine, big hello from all of us.
yeah,
Especially
she's
from me.
decided to not be here right now, so leave me to my own devices for a change. So yeah, so the here up on the North Queensland coast, northeast coast of Australia, two really significant World Heritage areas come together. The Daintree Rainforest comes all the way down to the sea and meets the Great Barrier Reef. So two of the richest ecosystems on the planet, just side by side. The Daintree's like full of amazing wildlife, fauna and flora, reptiles, amphibians, mammals, birds. It's a really remarkable bit of rainforest, and as I mentioned just a little earlier, it's a remnant forest, which is really primitive. It actually houses the oldest flowering plant on the planet. So some of the very first flowering plants still existing here in the Daintree. So, amazingly diverse place.
Wow, that's a tawny frogmouth in the middle.
It's a Papuan frogmouth. So they migrate down from Papua New Guinea down to the wet tropics in the winter. Yeah, and they nest down here.
Okay, let's test Parimal on this. On the gecko on the left, which side is the head?
The
which
upper
end
side.
of it is the head?
Up.
The what?
Upper side.
You got that. Yeah, you got it. What is that?
You got in one.
Yeah.
You know, just amazing IQ, I tell you. What to do? What do I do?
Yeah.
No, but it's actually hard. It's tricky. It's tricky.
That is.
And that's a little black flying fox on the right-hand side.
It's a fox?
All right.
Flying
fox. It's a bat.
Oh, it's a bat.
Yeah.
Got it. That shows how ignorant I am.
One of the fruit bats.
Yeah. Beautiful. Very nice.
Yeah. Okay, so these I guess this mountain range here, it's a lot of rain in the summer, every summer, and it pours down into the rainforest. There's beautiful waterfalls and forests up on the tablelands. It falls off the tablelands down the slopes of the mountains and makes its way towards the coast, where it goes across lowland areas, which are beautiful cabbage palms and mangroves and all kinds of things, before coming to the sea, right adjacent to the Great Barrier Reef. So this picture shows a part of the Daintree rainforest called Cape Tribulation, and it's a really good example of, you can see the mountains up the back there with the clouds on them. That's where the rain would be falling, and so fresh water goes through natural systems all the way down to the coast there. So it's a really beautifully intact piece of wilderness, connecting the World Heritage listed rainforest and the World Heritage listed Great Barrier Reef.
It's beautiful.
And you can see here, it's another shot of Cape Tribulation itself. You can see the fringing coral reefs on the mainland of Queensland there. Most people think of the Great Barrier Reef as being off the coast, but it's actually quite, in places, it historically has been fringing the mainland coast as well. So yeah, remarkable place. But and then that water that's come out of the mountains ends up on the outer barrier reef, which is sort of what's the more famous part of the reef. And it's the connections between these two really rich ecosystems that have really got me interested in how planting a tree can help protect the Great Barrier Reef. And that's because there's this connection of the fresh water.
I love that image, underwater off that fish. I know we're going to see a lot more images now, but I just love that too. Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
cool. Yeah. So this picture gives you an example of, or an idea of, what most of the river catchments are like around Queensland. So there's development, whether it's agriculture or farming, urban development and so forth. And all those nice clean water that comes down off the mountains, apart from in a couple of protected areas, most of it has to run through development, and it kind of, the rivers and streams end up being the drains, which mean that nutrients and fertilizers and all kinds of things flow out to the Great Barrier Reef through the river systems. And there's only these couple of protected ones up in the Daintree. And water quality is really important for the existence of coral. So there's a couple of things that threaten the barrier reef, mainly the effects of climate change, which heat the corals up, and they expel the little algae that lives with the animal in the coral, and you get what's called coral bleaching. Increased storm activity and regularity from increased storms with rising sea temperatures. And whilst those two things have naturally happened over the years, of occasional coral bleaching and occasional storms, as the more frequency of them increases, that the corals aren't getting enough time to recover. So they need as much help as they can get from as far as mitigating the effects of global warming. But the other big thing is water quality, and because as nutrients and fertilizers come out to the reef, algae grows on the coral and it takes over the reefs. So they're not designed to have a lot of nutrients on them. They're used to normally having just, plain kind of nice fresh water coming out there. So a really important thing to happen at the moment is to restore the catchments of the streams that run into the barrier reef. And as you can see there's all kinds of things that need to be done. And planting trees is one of the things that can create these filters. So if we can get trees close to all the rivers and in good numbers, revegetating the original forest, it mitigates the effects of all the development. So we've partnered with an organization called Rainforest Rescue, and they do a few things. One of which is they purchase blocks of land that would otherwise be sold for development, for housing development or industry or so forth, and use the money they raise to purchase those blocks and create wildlife corridors to keep the forest intact. They also run a nursery which they collect the seeds from the forest and propagate new trees, which they then use to replant on private land which has been offered as a venue to plant up. And this is one example. The Nightwings project has been going over 5 years, and the interesting thing about this is that they did expect a bit of water quality improvement over a long period of time, but it turns out that having these regular plantings, every year they're putting in thousands and thousands of trees. The water quality at Nightwings and the creek that runs adjacent to Nightwings, they projected they'd get a 15% increase in the quality of the water, but after 6 months of the first planting, it got to 41%, and after 12 months, 75%
Hmm.
better water quality. So we've got much better water going out to the Great Barrier Reef. Rainforest Rescue also, this is their next project. They're going to buy this block of land, which was a cattle farm, and they're going to replant that. And it's got remnant forest all the way from the tops of the mountains all the way down to the Daintree River there. And that will be the home of their new nursery as well, which is going to increase the abundance of, increase the number of trees they can grow and therefore plant. So they'll be able to increase, plant more on their own lands, other people's lands that ask them to manage their plantings, and also they'll be able to provide trees to private landholders who want to increase their own forested areas. So they're a really cool organization. The community is really involved planting all the trees, and together with Great Barrier Reef Legacy, we have this rainforest to reef like partnership and initiative. Great Barrier Reef Legacy are working on creating a coral ark because they're so concerned about the short-term survival of coral reefs around the world that you would have heard of the seed bank in Svalbard where you can
Yeah.
where they're
Mhm.
up in Norway. They have
Yep.
all the seeds frozen in the side of a mountain. Well, there's nothing like that for corals, so these guys want to make one
Oh,
just in
wow.
case, and hopefully they'll, if it gets to the point they start losing species, things will be able to come back and they'll be able to use the stuff that's in the ark.
So they're raising money right now, Darren, to build that building or that facility to save.
Yes, they are. They're looking at doing two things. They want to have a centralized facility, but then they want to have copies the um, of the tissue and the cells that they and the corals, and they're going to spread that out across the world in using the existing like expertise in aquarium management. So people would be able to have a backup of a piece of coral in a tank somewhere, anywhere in the world, and look
Hmm.
after it. So there'll be a network of the backup as well as a centralized facility. So pretty cool.
It's
Cool.
really cool. You know, in the
Mm.
Amazon, it's also the cattle ranches and the agriculture along the Amazon that's putting this exact same problem, isn't it? That they put nutrients in the river, and now you know the grass, the sargassum grass, is kind of polluting the entire Yucatan Peninsula way to the north.
Yeah.
It's really the same story.
Yeah, the catchment management is, key to coastal and ocean survival, and it just, for some reason, people, maybe because it's a little bit out of view, uh, they, I remember learning about the water cycle when I was in primary school, and how everything was connected, um, but it seems to have lost its importance at some point along the way. We all love to live. Well, we all need to live near watercourses. It tends to be the focus for community and society and all the things that go with it. It's just a matter of managing that water better than they do at the moment. So,
How
yeah.
deep of a forest from the river bank inland? How much of a buffer of forest do you think, or what the experts are suggesting, is necessary to purify the water or to protect that water?
Yeah. I guess anything's going to increase it. So ideally, you would have all forest, but you're never going to get that. So they're looking to try and create these buffers of 50 to 100 meters.
Hmm.
Either side would be ideal to, without going back and taking away productive farmland and so forth. Uh, that's that's really going to help. Yeah. Hmm.
All right. Parimal,
Yeah.
Darren, Darren
I'm
is,
back. Hello.
yeah, Parimal, Darren is a prime example of where a photographer connects the story to the audience because people respond to the visual image. And so Darren is an excellent underwater photographer, but even more importantly, he's a activist with a camera, and he has a heart of gold. And so you're seeing that right here, you know, how his stories and his photos actually can make changes.
Absolutely. Well said, Art.
Yeah, it's I guess there's a lot of conservation going around at the moment, and it seems to be that real action is what's needed, not just talking about it. And whilst we are raising awareness of the need for protecting the barrier reef, we want to do it with some tangible outcomes that people can actually go and do, you know, and feel
Yeah.
like they're actually having an effect. Because, you know, I think with social media, the idea that you can just tap on a picture and like it may be making people feel like they've done their bit. They've
Hmm.
supported that conservation initiative just by liking a picture, and you know that's a slippery slope. That there's personalities around that are raising money to create awareness. I think it's really our responsibility to raise awareness and use the money to actually do things.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
What's I know you're going to share underwater reef images in a bit. As you do that,
Yeah.
Darren, what's the call to action, if you will, for everyone watching now or replays, including me, that we can help with, as you said, tangible actions? Is it going to Rainforest Reef or Rainforest Rescue website?
Sure, that's one way for sure. Rainforest Rescue is one organisation and the one close to our hearts. They're working in a particular area to do work for the Great Barrier Reef. The reality of the I guess the things that are facing the planet as a whole means that if you plant a tree anywhere, you're going to have a help. You know, if you feel like,
Yeah,
what can I do for the environment today? You know, go and grab a few trees and plant them. You're gonna,
lovely.
if enough people do it, you're going to have that effect. And the beauty of the trees being planted in the Daintree is that they're absorbing carbon, they're stabilizing the soil, they're filtering the water going to the Great Barrier Reef. So there's like really good value for money in planting a
Yeah.
tree. Yeah.
If
Yeah.
only we planted as many trees as likes on social media, we would not have any of
Yes,
these problems.
for sure.
Great. I have a few questions, but I'm going to, on behalf of the audience, that I'm going to hit upon towards the end. But let's see some
Yeah.
underwater images.
You want to see some underwater pictures?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's see now. I
And
will
for
get
everyone,
us.
tuning in, yes, I have some questions that I see on, for example, Facebook. I'm going to hit upon some of them towards the end. So hang in there.
Okay. Do you have turtles in front of you?
Yes, beautiful turtles. Yes.
Okay. I'm just going to flick through because I think we've ended up. Yeah, it doesn't want to. Oh, there we go. I'm just
Yeah.
going to go back to
Oh,
the start here. There you go. We're starting
lovely.
here, if that's all right. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so here we are on the Great Barrier Reef in 1986.
Really?
This was
Wow.
one of the very first pictures I took on the Barrier Reef. Yeah. It's taken with a Nikonus camera, the special underwater camera, manual focus, no exposure meter, and on slide film. And I put this one up because for me it's interesting because up to that point, most of the underwater photography that I had seen was taken by divers. Now, I know that sounds like pretty obvious, but divers tended to take a picture of the thing that they went diving to see, so a fish or a coral, that didn't really take pictures of the underwater world.
Hmm.
And I really felt that it was important to show new things. There was this thing with underwater photography back then where everything had to be, flashed with a lot of light to show the real color of it and take away all the blue of the sea. But that I think this picture for me reminds me of what my roots were with underwater photography, and this is right in the shallows with the wave breaking over the top, and I'd never seen anything like this when I shot this way back then as a late teenager, 19 I think I was. Yeah.
You were a
20.
punk.
Yep.
That's Art's new word, punk. It's the word of the day for Art.
Did
Okay.
I called you that
that.
earlier today. Okay.
Yes.
I'm in a rut. I love the shot. I mean, I love it. It looks like a huge cumulus cloud moving across the plains.
Mm. Yeah, and this style of photography now is I would say quite common. There's a lot of people especially in the surf genre, there's a lot of people with waterproof housings and things are getting in and taking amazing pictures with digital cameras under the waves. But I guess, to me, showing the environment of the sea is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Let's see if I click here, if it goes to the next one. There we go. Yep.
We don't see it. Yeah, now we see it. Yeah, perfect. No, we do. Can you,
good.
Darren, do you mind moving the cursor away? Yeah, perfect. We see the stingray.
That better?
Maybe move it on the bottom right, completely out of the frame. Yeah, and you can use your keyboard's arrows.
Yeah, I tried the keyboard arrow and it didn't work. But anyway,
Okay.
We'll see how we go next time.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Okay. So again on the Barrier Reef, back in the old days with film, and I always found showing pictures, underwater pictures, to people who hadn't been underwater, left them a little bit cold because they were not familiar with the place. And so I was very keen to start shooting these half and halves because it's a really familiar place. It's a lot of people go swimming and they're doing their freestyle and they're in and out of the water. So I felt that maybe that was a way of connecting the terrestrial world with the underwater world in the one shot. So let's see if the arrow works now. Here we go. Excellent. It's working.
Yeah.
So,
oh, cute. It's a lovely.
It's
flying. Another early picture from about 1990. Again, shot with a film and a manual focus lens that you had to guess the focus. You couldn't even sort of see any focus. You had to just guess the distance and set that. But this is an interesting one because it's one that I've never been able to repeat, and I've tried a few times since the digital cameras have come out and made it a bit easier and faster, and instead of using 50 ISO slide film, I could use 400 ISO or something, or 800 ISO on my digital camera. But it always reminds me that it's not often that you get a second chance at something. And so I've been in similar situations to this since, but I've never been able to capture something as what I think is perfect as this little guy. So yeah, it's a little green turtle hatchling, just having left the beach, swimming out across the reef flat.
This image evokes just freedom, joy, happiness to me.
Yeah, I titled that one Beginning a Long Journey.
Yeah, and almost in a way, I mean, you already said it's flying, it's just happy, and almost in a way telling humanity, just leave us alone,
For sure. Okay.
Oh, It's
So I thought I'd put a couple of
beautiful.
turtles in, yeah, for you.
Beautiful.
This one I titled Eclipse
That's
for
very
obvious
good. I
reasons.
love that title.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah. So
actually
that's
looking,
done.
it looks like it's looking down on you.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? He's checking me out, wondering what I'm doing, why I'm trying to swim under him. I think, and yeah, I remember that having to be holding my breath and and because I did this one on snorkel, not on scuba, uh, and just trying to get that exact position in the middle of the day was pretty hard, but it came together nicely. Those radiating lines, the way they bring your eye, or they radiate out, but they kind of it creates this movement, visual movement. Your eye comes into the middle and then out and in and again. Yeah.
You know, I was going to title it Radiant, and then you said radiated, so it's exactly right.
Well, there you go. Yeah. How about that?
I showed this image to my son. We put this on Instagram, both as a witness, and I was showing him, and he said, "Wow, this image! Can we get this image for our house? It's beautiful." He loved this image.
That's nice. Yeah. Very good. Okay, what else we got going? So these are all taken on the Barrier Reef, I've decided for today. So I guess there's the different types of photography you can do. You can do the evocative stuff, the mood and the silhouettes and I guess the feel, and also the more documentary style things. But it's really important to I guess to maintain that artistic integrity in your composition and the way you approach things with all the styles of photography. I love these guys sharing a jellyfish. It's
Is that what
pretty
it's?
nice.
I had no idea they ate jellyfish. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So the green turtles are omnivorous, but they're mostly vegetarians. They'll mostly eat seagrass and so forth, but they will have a go at a jellyfish from time to time. Some of the other species are specialist jellyfish eaters. So they'll be happy with global warming because as the oceans absorb more carbon, it becomes more acidic, and jellyfish like the pH to be more acidic, and they reproduce more when it does. So there'll be more jellyfish in the sea and less krill, less of the hard-shelled animals, because the acid won't allow their shells to form properly. Yeah. You know how when you make soft, you can cook some crab and put a bit of vinegar in the water and it makes the shell go all soft. Yeah.
You're making me
So,
hungry.
Same thing's gonna happen in the ocean.
So, Darren, how close? This is a wide angle in a dome port. You
Yep.
are very close to these turtles, and yet they're so focused on eating the jelly.
Yeah, maybe only 30 centimeters, 12 inches, 15 inches,
Wow.
something like that away. Yeah, yeah. They get focused on things. A lot of things get focused on things when they're eating, don't they? Like the bears up there that you do there. They're focused on their
Well,
salmon, aren't they? Yeah.
yeah. Well, Parimal at dinner. If you take them out to dinner, it's pretty embarrassing. That's a lovely shot. I just love the way the flippers kind of again have that beautiful curve between the two animals, and it's just a great shot.
Connects them, and that the diagonal going straight
Yes.
across the
I
frame.
love that. There's a lot of movement as a result of it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, what else we got?
Are you a photographer, Darren? This is pretty good. Are you a photographer?
I'm practicing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully it'll be better tomorrow.
Well, I mean, actually, all kidding aside, that's all our hopes, right? You always have a better day tomorrow.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that beak on that baby.
Yeah. That shot with the fisheye. the 15 mil. So it's like that far away from the
Wow.
dome.
This
Yeah,
is
Make your
so
dome.
intimate.
Yeah,
it
you
is.
actually have to make your dome port look like a jellyfish, and then they chase you around. But that is a lovely shot, eye to eye with a sea turtle.
Yeah. I love the way the fisheye uh, bends the horizon. Under the
Mm.
water, you seem to be able to get away with it a lot more than you can on land. And it actually adds to the fluidity of the ocean, I think, and conveys that feeling a lot more with the curves that it creates, whether it's, whichever way you tilt it, it either goes up or it goes down. Um, and there's not so many reference points that we're used to when we see topside pictures. If we saw trees curving around, it would be a bit weird, and horizons and stuff. So, yeah, it's my favorite lens under the water, the fisheye. I have the 8-15, so I do some circular fisheye, and some full frame. Yeah,
I have
but it
that
does mean
same
you have
lens.
to get close to things. Yeah,
You know, the
you got that
eye.
one too, Art?
Go ahead, Art.
Oh,
I didn't say anything. I think
Okay.
you and Darren stepped on each other.
Yeah.
uh,
Art, no, Darren, I was saying to me, the fact that the turtle is looking at you, it establishes a very deep connection in a way. It connects.
for sure. Yeah, that's the important thing with wildlife. I'm sure Art. Um, well, I learned by looking at Art's pictures. So the connection is, the eye is one of the most important things with the wildlife, and you get away with uh, blurry noses and blurry ears, but you can't get away with blurry eyes. So.
Mm.
Hmm. And here's the little guys coming down the beach for after they've come out of their nest on the sand, the green turtle hatchlings, heading down the beach towards the light.
And Darren, in this part of the world, do you guys have frigate birds?
We do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they pick off these guys, don't they?
they do. So yeah, they run the gauntlet. There's frigate birds and seagulls. There was a real problem on the southern barrier reef for many years, because the coastal towns were attracting lots of seagulls at their rubbish dumps, at the municipal
Yep.
area where you go and dump all your rubbish, and the population of seagulls exploded, and that meant that during turtle season there was a lot more turtles getting taken by seagulls. So they'd run down the beach, they run the gauntlet of the birds, and then they get to the water and there's all these big fish want to eat them. So not that they used to think. I remember when I first started working with turtles back in the mid to late 80s. The researchers used to say 1 in 100 hatchlings, so one per nest, used to probably survive to maturity.
Wow.
But they now believe it's more like 1 in 1,000. So,
Oh my God.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
so yeah, they don't have any protection, and they head out from the nesting beach out into the open ocean and drift around on the currents until they're about this big, so a
Hmm.
few years, and then they find their way back to the reefs and coastal areas. So
Hard
they're
life.
called the lost years, because they for a long time they never knew nobody had ever seen any sea turtles in this kind of medium size. They'd only seen hatchlings and then older ones. So, well, I guess it's a good example of how you can use light and shade in your picture to have people, um, you know, move the viewer's eye through the picture.
Yeah.
So you want to go to the light with the turtles.
Towards the light. Yeah.
This one's especially for art. This is coral spawning.
Did you? I don't see anything. Yeah, there you go. It's just come up. Oh wow.
So what's happening
So
in
this
this
is,
image?
yeah, so this is the one night of the year that all the corals on a reef all have sex. So it's usually around 7 days after the full moon in October, and all the corals, it's sexual reproduction. So there's eggs and sperm in the water, and they all release it into the water all at once, and it drifts on the tide, mixes together, and finds its way to other reefs. It's a spectacular thing. It's just been happening up here in the last month or so.
Wow.
And there's a project this year that I heard about where they're, rather than letting the coral spawn just randomly find its way across the reef, they're collecting it all up and they're putting it back onto reefs that have been degraded by coral bleaching and storms in order to, I guess, better the chances of those reefs recovering.
Hmm.
So there's a bit of money being put into that coral IVF, they're calling it. So yeah,
Coral IVF.
yeah,
It's a beautiful
Well, it's
image.
like coral farming.
yeah. It's when you're shooting with flash under the water, you're generally trying to not record all the particles in the water. So flash tends to, a bit like using flash in a snowstorm, you know, if you take a picture with a flash and it's snowing, you get all the light reflecting back into the
Hmm.
camera. Under the water, generally, when you take a picture with flash, every little speck of muck in the water all reflects the light back to the camera,
Oh.
unless you position your strobes very, very carefully. The interesting thing about when you shoot the coral spawning is that you're trying to get the particles in the water to come back at you, not disappear. So.
I'm gonna read a comment based on what you just said, Darren. Is that it can be very tricky. Art, guess whose comment this is? The comment is, I'm not sure people appreciate how difficult it can be to photograph underwater. And the hint is, she is a legend, and we have had her join on Earth is a Witness as a guest photographer, and a friend of yours, Art, as well. I said she,
Okay, let me think.
and she is watching us live.
That's putting a lot of pressure on me. I'm still suffering the effects of
Okay,
tequila.
let me tell you. That's Nevada Veer joining us. Nevada, I love your comment. And that's Nevada, our friend Nevada, joining us live. And that's her comment.
See,
Is that
of course, Nevada has photographed underwater, but that wouldn't have been who I would have picked. I was trying to think of an underwater exclusive photographer. Well, that's good. Hi, Nevada. Thanks for watching this. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a bit difficult, the underwater stuff. Because I have photographed in all kinds of environments, and I don't mind a challenge. But the underwater work is still the difficult one. Like this picture, you know, this happens all at once in the middle of the night on a particular night, maybe. So it was like go on a trip, sleep all day and stay awake all night waiting for the coral to spawn in the dark out in the coral reef. So wandering around with your torch and so forth. But even the simple things like one of the first things I remember being told about photography was hold the camera still. Now, I know we don't always do that because we want to pan or we want to show some creativity and so forth, but like, you know, basics, hold the camera steady. Under the water, currents and, you know, flotation and buoyancy when you're breathing underwater and your fins and the currents, holding the camera still is the absolutely hardest part of the whole thing. Yeah, so when we just did we've just been on a boat for a week out here on the Barrier Reef with some people that were really keen on learning to do underwater photography. And the first couple of dives, we really got them in the water even without their cameras, just to see how they went with their body position and so forth. Because you've got to be able to swim down. Imagine swimming down close to something and holding the camera steady. So being a good diver is the first real prerequisite, because you can be the greatest photographer, and if you can't hold yourself in mid-water and get the exact position that you want, in relation to those turtles feeding and so forth, you might want to go up 6 inches or down 6 inches, whatever.
Wow.
Yeah, I have to say buoyancy is my biggest issue. I breathe a little bit and I'm heading towards the surface.
Yeah. We had a lady on this trip who was struggling with her buoyancy. Her feet wanted to float up all the time, and that makes it a bit hard to take pictures because you're always craning your neck and so forth. So trimming the buoyancy and things becomes just as important as the apertures and shutter speeds. I put this one in because I love monochrome. I love shooting in black and white, and I also love shooting in color, and Under the Ocean gives me a chance to do both at once. I can shoot monochrome, color, and just look for textures and light.
Texture's really nice.
So they're hard corals, and I always try and get things in context
In the depth,
when I'm doing the landscapes under the water. They're the hardest thing because it's turtle swims up to you and you get a picture, well and good, but creating, a journey within a picture of the underwater world, being able to transit from the foreground out into the background is, we've got some advantages with, making things stand out against the background. If this was a forest, you'd have all the trees in the background kind of creating lines and shapes and drawing the attention, but I guess we've got the nice blue water in the background to be able to deal with that. So
it's beautiful.
Yeah. Have you got some fish?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, good.
We have fish.
So these are trevally, and if anybody's seen Finding Nemo, the movie,
Yeah.
if you can remember, the school of fish pointed the way to Sydney.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were trevally. Yeah.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. I really like to shoot
told me
these.
that. That's what my son said when he saw this image. Yeah, it's from Nemo.
I like to shoot this stuff with available light, not so much with flash, because those silver fish, they're like mirrors, and they do create all these amazing hotspots if you're not careful. So available light and a little bit of judicious white balancing and so forth. And also, I like to have the blue still part of the picture, because without that, you're not in the ocean. So.
And why was there a predatory fish around this? Why are they all in the school that tight?
Yeah, they tend to school together all the time, and they it is, as you say, it's a response to predators, but I think they must always be on edge in a nice healthy ecosystem with lots of sharks and dolphins and stuff around.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's funny because they can sometimes be really, really good. They can really deliver great shapes, and sometimes they don't. Yesterday, I had a smaller school than this in front of me, and they just would being a little bit random. They'd start to go and come together into a nice shape, and then some of them would turn around and split off. And yeah, it's a challenge for sure.
It's beautiful.
So that's here's a question for everybody. Somebody, a question for the audience. What's the collective noun for stingrays?
Huh. Can I Google?
Ah,
Can I use internet?
no Google.
No, you can't cheat.
Okay, people, what is the collective noun for multiple stingrays?
Yeah. So these stingrays, there's all different species in amongst these. They're not just one species as well, all congregating together. And that's a shark called a blacktip shark.
Flight. Is the answer flight?
Which?
Is it the answer flight from Brian Wells? Flight?
It's not, but that's a good one.
That's a good one, Brian. Good one.
Yeah, good, but
How
it's not
about
correct.
a congregation?
There you go. There's a hint there. See,
How about Thanksgiving? How about Thanksgiving dinner?
Oh, geez. Okay, Parimal, don't talk now. Okay, tell us the answer. We got to move on. I think we're running out of time.
Yeah.
It's a cuddle.
A cuddle of stingrays. Okay.
A cuddle of stingrays. So one of the things about underwater photography, you can shoot plan views all the time. It's really good. It's just like having your own helicopter.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
This is a play. How long have we got, guys?
Yeah, we have a few more minutes. Maybe 5 at the most. So we do have to speed up.
Okay. All right. Speed up. This is shot at a place called Osprey Reef, which is beyond the Barrier Reef, out in the Coral Sea. It's just on top of a seamount. Is about 2,000. The walls are about 2,000 meters high, and it comes to within like 15 meters of the surface. And it's the most spectacular place for wildlife to congregate. It's amazing.
And that was this photographed recently?
This one wasn't. This is where we were supposed to go there last week, but the weather was blowing 35 knots and we couldn't get there. So we've been inside the reef, sheltering. But this was it's a couple of years ago. Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
And I like the layers with that, and the way the eye can go to the light there, and find those fish over in the background. Same place. That's the 2,000 meter drop off with a bunch of whalers, grey reef sharks patrolling, and I love this sunlight there, where it kind of it falls into the water and surrounds your shadow. So down in the middle of that blackness would be my shadow. So.
Wow, it's very unusual. I love this shot.
Thank you. Wow, I like it when Art says that about my pictures.
Well, I mean, this one and the turtle would be a great pairing, because the turtle, the light is radiating out, and this one seems to be converging inward. So it's a great play of light. But also, I think the scale of the sharks is so much smaller than we're used to seeing. So it is a very unusual shot. That's great.
Yeah, incredibly clear water. Seeing them a bit further away for a change.
Yeah.
So I put this one in because there's often some conversation about it, because people don't know really what it is. Shot with the 8mm circular fisheye, and a little bit of post just to give the shadow and to create that kind of planetary look to it.
Beautiful.
So shot from above the reef, looking down.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's very effective.
trying to create a bit of a metaphor.
Very, very. I haven't seen one quite like that. And I think that one shark silhouette is great. But yeah, you're right. It just has that global feel to it, doesn't it? Wow.
And, you know, that was shot the first time I got that lens, and I'd been shooting for a couple of days and just taking lots of round pictures, and hadn't really, I think, nailed how to use the lens. But once I shot that, I've subsequently done a lot more of these kind of planetary little water planets, I call them, and I think they're nice metaphors.
Yeah. These kind of photos would be really good in campaigns about the coral reefs.
Yes, yes. So what's this? This is a coral greenhouse. It's a new art installation up here on the Barrier Reef, adjacent to a reef, and they're going to be growing coral in the greenhouse to propagate damaged reefs, and it's been designed in such a way that it's nice to look at, as well as the utilitarian building. And so created by an artist named Jason DeClares Taylor, who's been backed by this project called the Museum of Underwater Art. And so there'll be tourism happening here for people to go and have a look at the greenhouse, the art, and the coral propagation. Plus the tourist vessels that go out there will be able to ferry the scientists out to do the work. So it's a really good use of resources in order to get a good bang for the buck again. A bit like planting a tree is good value. So this has only been open for about 6 months, and so it will gather coral and things naturally on it, but they'll be bringing coral in and propagating it inside the structure. And he's made these sculptures to go with it as well. So, and it's got that bit of a rainforest to reef story as well, with the trees as part of it. So
Yeah.
So it's a shame we've got to do this and have a coral arc. It'd be way better if we didn't have to do that. So,
Yeah. Just a quick time check, Darren. You have to wrap up in a bit.
Okay. Well, second last picture.
Great.
Just another turtle, a recent one. Again, it's the sort of thing that I like to do with a bit of space and to give the animals somewhere to live and all that sort of stuff to continue the story along. And then I thought I'd put one really fresh picture in. This was from 2 days ago out on the Barrier Reef. And it's a success story. That's the barramundi cod, which is a fish that had been almost fished to extinction until they brought in protection specifically for that fish. And found, I think, actually, I stole that from Jasmine. She found it. And I was able to spend a bit of time there and get a shot of it with the Gorgonian fans and so forth. So, yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Wow.
Lovely image.
Nice colors. Yeah.
Nice colors and a positive story. Thank you, Darren. Thank you. That was wonderful. Sorry to rush you towards the end, but that was wonderful.
That's all right.
As we wrap up, I'm going to have one question. Obviously, by the way, we have quite a few comments and questions on our social Facebook. So maybe offline after this one, would love for Darren, you maybe take some time and help people answer the questions. There's some technical questions and also some conservation questions about the coral reef.
Sure.
Let's wrap it up with one question. The same question to both of you, starting with you first, Art, and then with you, Darren, is what can we learn from all this that you feel is something that all photographers can take away, if you will, in terms of a message or a learning?
I think the lesson I've learned from Darren's talk and from my own experience is understanding that nature is resilient given a fighting chance. So you saw the statistics of how fast water can re-purify itself in a matter of months if the proper treatment, in this case, planting plants along these water courses. And you know, when I grew up in Seattle, we never would see a bald eagle, and now they're nesting in every park. So you grasp those positive stories about how man has rectified the issues, and you use those for metaphors on tackling the bigger global issues. Quite succinctly, giving up is not an alternative. You've always got to kind of have the hope and the desire. And in Darren's case, he demonstrates by actual doing.
Thank you, Art.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, certainly the thing is to do, I think, is that the connections are so important, and that that giving up hope is, you know, if all we did was show the devastation of the barrier reef, people would just go, well, it's too late, you know, we can just not worry about that anymore. But there's still parts of the reef that are in really good condition, and they do come back. We dove on some reefs last week that had been hit by cyclones 15 years ago and recovering. And as long as, you know, as long as we can try and look after them and try and take away any of the burdens that we can, then they're going to have the most chance to survive. And importantly, you know, for people to get out and do something, and it can be as small as planting a tree.
On that note, it can be as small as planting a tree. Thanks a lot, Art. Thank you very much, Darren. You know, we learned a lot. Obviously, beautiful images. What I loved, not just the beautiful images, but the stories and the inspiration that we can all draw from this. And truly learning that planting a tree can, you know, save the reef is inspiring and very empowering. So thanks to you, Darren. And everyone, check out Darren's work, darrenjew.com, also on Instagram. Check out Earth is a Witness. Again, the plug is, please do share this talk. Please do follow Darren as well. And don't forget to plant a tree. And with that, thanks again, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Parimal and Darren.
Bye. Bye, Art. Bye, Parimal.
Bye.